Welcome to another Explainer. Today, we're completely reframing how executives and investors view mergers and acquisitions. For decades, the M&A playbook was pretty simple, right? You look at the spreadsheets, analyze the revenue streams, and build your synergy models. But the landscape has dramatically shifted. Mergers and acquisitions aren't just about spreadsheets and revenue anymore. They are about risk. Today, we're diving into the single biggest blind spot in modern deal-making. It's an unseen threat that won't ever show up on a standard balance sheet, but it has the power to literally tank your next acquisition. We are talking about cybersecurity due diligence.
Okay, let's dive into this. $350 million. Now that is an evaluation. That is the exact discount Verizon forced on its acquisition of Yahoo back in 2017. Why? Well, because after the agreement was already largely in place, a massive, totally undiscovered data breach came to light. Verizon thought they were getting this prime digital media empire, but instead, they were walking right into a massive security failure. And the crazy part is, this breach happened before Verizon even entered the picture. Suddenly, the asset they were buying was just fundamentally compromised. That $350 million represents the very real, very painful price of inheriting someone else's cyber catastrophe.
Section 1. The hidden M&A threat, when cyber risk becomes a financial liability.
We need to establish right out of the gate that the security posture of a target company is no longer just an IT concern. It's a massive financial liability. Really, it's a reputational bomb just waiting to explode. To understand why this happens, we have to look at how we've traditionally done due diligence. Standard financial and legal diligence is almost entirely backward-looking. You review historical revenue, past legal liabilities, existing financial controls. You're basically verifying what the company has already done. But cyber risk, it's entirely forward-facing. It doesn't just ask what happened. It asks, what could go wrong after the ink dries? It asks, what unknown attackers are already inside the network right now? And honestly, most frighteningly, how might acquiring this target create a backdoor into my own highly secure business? Because you aren't just buying their past success, you might actually be buying their future disaster.
Section 2. The cost of getting hacked, real-world financial and regulatory blowback.
Let's look at what happens when those forward-facing risks aren't caught during the M&A process. The blowback is incredibly severe. Just look at this number, $383 million. When Marriott acquired Starwood, they thought they were just inheriting world-class hotels and this great loyalty program. Instead, they unknowingly inherited a massive data breach, affecting 383 million guest records. And here is the real kicker. That breach went undetected in Marriott's newly merged systems for 2 full years. The attackers were quietly siphoning data the entire time. The result wasn't just a horrible PR nightmare that completely damaged consumer trust. It actually triggered an £18.4 million GDPR fine. When they bought the company, they bought an active, bleeding data breach right along with it.
And this brilliantly illustrates a major point. Regulators are paying very close attention to this dynamic. The Federal Trade Commission has made their stance crystal clear. Quote, failure to conduct cybersecurity due diligence could be viewed as negligent. Regulators are absolutely no longer accepting the excuse of, oh, well, it happened before we bought them. Nope. When you buy the company, you buy the liability. Period. Acquirers are now legally responsible for both the known and the unknown breaches of their targets right from day one. It is a massive fundamental shift in how corporate responsibility is assigned.
And it's not just the FTC. Global regulators are tightening their grip across the board, demanding acquirers assess and disclose these risks. In the U.S., the SEC now demands material incident disclosures within just 4 business days. I mean, that is barely enough time to even understand the scope of a breach, let alone disclose it properly. Over in the EU and the UK, regulations like GDPR and NIS2 enforce strict supply chain security, threatening fines of up to 4% of global revenue. And down in Australia, the updated Privacy Act can slap you with penalties up to $50 million. The days of pleading ignorance are completely over. The law demands that you assess these risks meticulously before you close the deal, or you are going to pay the price.
Section 3. Real due diligence explained. Moving beyond the checklist.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the surface-level illusion of safety and the actual technical validation required for real protection. Because if the stakes are this high, finding hidden liabilities requires way more than just ticking a compliance box. First, you have the surface check. This is reading an outdated SOC2 report, doing a quick 1-hour interview with management, and basically just taking the seller's word for it that their network is totally secure.
Then you have real due diligence. This is independent control validation. It's actively threat hunting in their systems before you buy them. It's reviewing hard technical evidence, not just reading policies written on some piece of paper. You have to validate the reality of their security, not just the theory.
To actually achieve that real validation, you need a structured playbook broken down into 4 clear, jargon-free phases. Step 1 is scoping. This is figuring out what digital assets, cloud environments, and software they actually own, because obviously you can't protect what you don't know exists. Step 2 is discovery, digging deep into the documentation and technical evidence. Step 3, validation. This is the crucial one, independent testing to map out their actual threat surface. You're checking for vulnerabilities yourself. And finally, step 4, reporting. Now, this isn't just an IT report. This is delivering a clear roadmap that gives the buyer an actual price impact opinion that they can take right to the negotiating table.
During that validation phase, your team is on the hunt for absolute deal breakers. Things like no documented security policies, that's pure negligence. Undisclosed incidents, that means they either don't know they were hacked or, worse, they're actively hiding it from you. But look out for shared admin credentials. This represents a catastrophic access control weakness. If multiple people are just sharing the keys to the kingdom, you have no idea who is actually accessing what. And no multi-factor authentication, MFA, on sensitive systems, that makes them an incredibly easy target for credential stuffing attacks. These aren't just minor technical flaws, they are wide open doors for attackers.
Section 4. Turning risk into deal leverage. Dollars, deadlines, and decisions.
Identifying those red flags, that's only half the battle. We now enter what is arguably the most crucial business concept of this entire explainer, turning risk into deal leverage. Because if you can't assign a concrete cost to cyber risk, you will inevitably end up paying for someone else's mistakes long after the deal closes. So the crucial point is this: security equals leverage. Just like crippling debt or a massive pending lawsuit, cybersecurity flaws are deal-impacting variables. A savvy buyer uses unresolved cyber risks to their advantage. In today's market, it is incredibly common for significant security findings to justify 10 to 25% reductions in the overall purchase price.
You do this by mapping the technical flaws directly to financial negotiation tactics.
Let's look at a few examples. If you find a historical breach that wasn't disclosed, that is a critical value impact. You either exit the deal entirely or trigger heavy legal penalties. If there's a high GDPR breach risk, you hold back funds in escrow or demand a discount on the purchase price. And if it's a medium risk, like, say, an insecure cloud configuration, you build a post-close remediation clause into the contract, legally forcing them to fix it on their dime before the deal is finalized. Basically, you are systematically shifting the liability back to the seller, exactly where it belongs.
Section 5. Post-acquisition security integration, fixing the most underestimated step in M&A.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Because let's say you've navigated the deal, negotiated the price, and signed the papers. You aren't done. This is universally the most underestimated step in M&A. Companies fixate on merging HR systems, payroll, branding, but they disastrously fail to align their security architectures, leaving the newly merged network completely exposed. You have to execute these 5 operational integration priorities on day 1. You must merge identity and access management so you know exactly who is logging in. Consolidate those messy cloud environments. Align your endpoint security so all employee laptops are protected by the exact same standard. Funnel all your system logs into one central view. And crucially, harmonize the security culture and training so every new employee understands your standards the moment they walk through the door.
Which brings us to the core thesis of this entire explainer. When you are looking at your next acquisition, right after you've checked the spreadsheets and projected the synergy revenue, you need to step back and ask yourselves this provocative question. If we acquire this company today, how secure will we be tomorrow? Because the unseen threat is the one that will always cost you the most. You must integrate before the breach, not after. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.